This is the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold8, Samsung's newest and cutest folding phone to date. This is a super interesting phone because for the first time ever, Samsung dropped not one, but two book-style folding phones. This one right here is the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold8 Ultra, and we'll make a separate video on this soon. But first, let's talk about my week with the new Z Fold8. So first things first, let's talk about the specs. So the Z Fold8 is a 5.5-inch foldable phone that when you open it, expands to a 7.6-inch display. Now, powering this phone is Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 for Galaxy, which makes this phone a very powerful fold. Besides that, it packs a 4,800 mAh battery, which can fast charge up to 45 watts wired, and we're also getting stereo speakers. Besides that, we're also getting dual camera setups on the back, which are both 50 megapixels, and the selfie cameras are both 10 megapixels. So talking more about this new form factor, this is hands down my favorite form factor for a folding phone right now. It's a lot shorter than your traditional smartphone, and when you open it up, you get this really nice widescreen experience, which basically gives you that nostalgic 4:3 aspect ratio, which if you like emulating retro games, 4:3 is probably the perfect aspect ratio for retro games. And we'll talk more about gaming in just a little bit. But yeah, talking a bit more about the outside cover display, that 5.5-inch AMOLED display is really nice. It gets plenty bright and saturated in a bright sunny day. And while it isn't exactly 4:3, it's still a really fun experience scrolling on Instagram or websites using this cover display. It's also a lot easier to reach around the display since it's a lot shorter than most phones. Now, the big question you guys probably have for these new folds is, how is the crease? Now, Samsung's crease on the inner display has been minimized a ton compared to last year's Fold. It's probably just as good, if not better than Oppo's no-feel crease. This new titanium hinge and film that they're using on the Fold 8 and 8 Ultra are way better than last year's Z Fold 7. Dragging my finger across the screen doesn't feel like there's a noticeable dip like last year's Fold, and it's also a lot easier to prop the phone open because there's like a slight kick or springy feel to it once the phone opens up. The downside to this though is that it's really hard to get the phone to stay at like 90 degrees because of the hinge. It just wants to either close or open right away immediately. Overall though, I'm a really big fan of this new form factor. I just wish they gave us an S Pen or the new privacy mode that they introduced with the Galaxy S26 Ultra, which would have made this phone a lot better. Oh, and one little thing I noticed about this new form factor as someone who's been using, an iPhone and an X300 Ultra every day, my MagSafe wallet doesn't fit onto the back of the phone just because, the phone is so short and wide, but on the 8 Ultra, it's fine. Moving on to performance, this chip isn't new by any means. We first saw this with the S26 Ultra, and it's a beast. It's the fastest Snapdragon chip out right now, and whether you plan on multitasking or you plan on playing PC games on here, it's able to handle all of that really well. The only thing I will say though is that if you really push this device like playing AAA titles via Game Native or Game Hub, this phone gets extremely hot and will eventually throttle. So probably stick to older retro titles like PS2 or GameCube games, or even, Game Boy games. So yeah, performance on this phone, there's really not a lot to say here. It's a super fast phone, and if you do want to play high-end games on this, I'd probably recommend getting an external fan of some sort just to cool the phone down so it doesn't throttle as fast, but also get the 512GB version, or if you have extra money to spare, the 1TB version, because you can fill up the base storage pretty quick. And then talking a bit about battery life for a device with a 4,800 mAh battery, it's a decent size for a foldable this small, but after a week of using this phone, I'd average about 5.5, maybe 6 hours of screen on time, which isn't amazing, but still pretty good for a fold this small and compact. Thankfully, Samsung upped the charging capabilities on the Fold 8 and 8 Ultra, so now we have 45 watts fast charging, which can get me back up to 80% in less than an hour or so. But yeah, battery life after a week of using this phone has been pretty good, but how you use your phone could also impact how long or how short battery life really is. And then when it comes to software, I feel like One UI this year didn't really get a major design overhaul compared to other, operating systems. Software-wise, we still have the same multitasking experience even here on the smaller Fold. You can open up to 3 windows and have either a split screen experience or have a full screen experience where you can swap between 2 apps really quickly. Now, one thing I did notice here with the regular Z Fold though, is that there's no more flex mode, which means if you want to take your photos or videos of yourself and you want to, prop up the phone like this on a table, it will just look weird and you don't get that split screen UI anymore. I'm sure Samsung can easily push out a software update and add this feature, but for now, there's no flex mode here on the regular Z Fold 8. So if you want proper flex mode, you'll have to go with the Z Fold 8 Ultra or the older Z Fold 7. Now, another software feature I wish these new Z Folds had is the same DeX mode that we saw from the Trifold last year, where you can essentially use Samsung's DeX mode without plugging this into a monitor. I think having some sort of PC style software and connecting a mouse and a keyboard here would have been so sick, but it looks like that's only reserved for the Trifold. Okay, and then let's talk about the cameras. So on the smaller Z Fold 8, there's a dual camera setup on the back, a 50 megapixel wide camera and another 50 megapixel ultra wide camera. No telephoto on here, unlike the Z Fold 8 Ultra, but honestly, I think cropping in on that main sensor to 2x or 3x is more than enough for most people. But you're also not buying a Z Fold to have an incredible camera experience. Foldable phones still can't match what typical candy bar phones have, but besides that though, I was still able to capture some pretty good photos from this new Fold. I think the pictures look very good, very Samsung coded, which means it's got that like nice, vivid, saturated look to the photos, but also doesn't look overly processed. Some shots do look a bit sharper than I'd like, but for a Fold, I think it's decent. Now, I do wish that the sensors were bigger overall so that we can get more bokeh out of the main camera and ultra wide, but if I'm being honest, I really like the ultra wide camera on the Z Fold 8. It features autofocus, which means I can take some pretty good macro photos of products or get up close and personal with a subject and get this nice out of focus background. It's not gonna be the best macro photos that you'll get, but for a folding phone, they're pretty good. And then when it comes to videos, the Z Fold 8 also got the APV log treatment that we saw with the Samsung S26 Ultra. This means you can take some pretty incredible videos with, really good dynamic range and videos that you can color grade to make it look more cinematic. And yeah, that's my experience with the new Z Fold 8 after a week of using it. I think the new form factor is definitely something a lot of people have to get used to, but the learning curve isn't all that different from, your traditional folds. Now, after a week of using this review unit, I actually ended up buying one for myself in the Samsung.com exclusive pistachio colorway, and I can't wait to see that color in person. I'll most likely be using this phone alongside the iPhone 17 Pro and make, the iPhone my mobile content camera and use this fold for everything else. If you're on the fence about this new Z Fold 8, I'd highly suggest you guys go to Best Buy or your local carrier store and check out the phone yourselves, because once you feel this phone in your hand and you compare it next to the Z Fold 8 Ultra, it's a pretty big difference. And I think this form factor will sell like hotcakes in the coming months, now that Apple's rumored to come out with their first foldable in this exact same form factor. Anyways, that's been it for this video, and yeah, I'll see you all in the next one.